Okay, this is kind of more of a question, I guess. So I was all excited. I bought this Von Moof S2. This one here is one of the older ones, and it was actually in really good shape. And when I got the app from the guy loaded onto my phone, I could see that it only has roughly a little over 500 miles on it. And he said he had dunked the front end of it in the water, and I couldn't tell if it went more down the through where the controller is located, which is that tube right there, or through the battery. Of course, the bike is upside down. It's on my feedback sports stand right there because I had taken out the controller. And incidentally, when I got the controller out, there on the older S2, there's a micro USB on the controller itself, and I plugged it in and it made a noise. And so I thought, oh wow, maybe the controller is good on this. Another thing that I noticed is when I flipped it upside down, I took the seat out. I would say about 2 to 3 ounces of water poured out of this tube. I don't know how long it had been in there. But when I got the bike from the guy that previously owned it, it was dusty and it was just very dusty. Both of the tires were flat. And so I guess the water had been in there for a while, but the water wasn't rusty. So that was kind of odd. That kind of threw me off a little bit. And what I had originally, when I bought this, what I intended to do was to take the crank and the rim from this S2 and swap it out and put on my S3. When I bought this one, I got both of these off Facebook. Got this one for $1, really for free because I don't have $1. And I got this one for like 50 or $60. And this one runs great, but it still has a bent rim and it has a bent crank. And so I'd hoped to swap them, but when I did a little research, it said that you couldn't. So whatever, those I think aren't that hard to fix, a crank and a wheel. But on this one, I was bummed because I started to get excited when I heard the noise, when I plugged in to charge the micro USB inside of the controller and it made the noise. I was hopeful that it was going to work. Didn't happen. I tried to plug it in overnight. Before I did that, though, when I disassembled, I took the battery apart a little bit and I got some oxidizer spray, this stuff here, and I sprayed down some of the controller, some of the battery, thinking, who knows? Maybe it'll knock loose some oxidation or something like that. Nothing happened. I probably maybe I made it worse. I'm not sure. So all hope is not lost. I'm wondering if somebody out there watching this, if I swap out a good battery or a good controller, either way, I'm wondering if that might possibly, I doubt it, but you never know, kick slow trickle charge this thing back to life. I wish I could find a local sort of a ninja, a Von Moof Sunsai here in the Washington, D.C. area that could take apart this battery and take apart the controller and just really sort of figure it out. I don't think that's going to happen. I did find a guy in Brooklyn who's really good at it. He's an electrical engineer. His name is Sinclair Young. He's actually traveling right now. But I may just shoot him a message and ask him what he thinks about this S2. If nothing else, maybe I'll donate it or sell it out for some parts. I mean, it looks like it just rolled off the showroom floor practically. I mean, this S2, it's shinier, it's in a little better condition than this one. But this one is also in excellent condition. I was able to grab the rear rack off the S2 and put it on the S3, so I got a little bit of something. And after doing that, because I had read that the rear racks wouldn't swap out either, so given that the rear rack did, just for grins, I'm going to go ahead and grab a crank tool and pull off the cranks and see if the cranks will fit. The rim, that's a whole nother thing. I'm going to take this in, try to get it trued first, or do a wheel rebuild, have somebody rebuild the wheel, and we'll go from there. So anyways, that's my little nerdy hobby project for this week. If you have any thoughts or suggestions on how to bring this S2 back to life, specifically where the controller and the battery are concerned, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you know of anybody that's a good resource to mail batteries into that can fix them, reasonably well for a semi-reasonable price. I know Rybit does stuff, but Rybit they do what they do well, but it's also pretty expensive, and they're more focused, I think, on renting bikes, and which I get. Like, I love their service. I think for what they do a terrific job. It's just hard to find, especially with some of these older S2s, to get the repairs at the cost that makes sense. So That's it. That's all I got. Von Moof. Here's S3, and there's the S2. And hey, if I'm really lucky, if I'm really fortunate, I'll get this S2 working as well. So that's it. Have a good weekend.